Jai Guruji, it's my honor and privilege to be here with Guruji and with Guruji's Parivar. As Uncle said, I'm from Texas, and I've known of Guruji since the last 4 years. And during this time, I have not been to Delhi, I've not been to Mandir. I only got connected to the Sangat in Texas since last year, and more so this year. But my journey with Guruji started when my Masi came from India 4 years ago, and she mentioned of Guruji. I'd like to relate that journey to you, and I pray to Guruji that he guides my thoughts and my words today, because this is really the first time I'm speaking in front of a lot of people. So 4 years ago, when my Masi talked about Guruji, she told about some of her satsangs, and she had the book Light of Divinity with her. I borrowed it, and I found myself reading those satsangs at bedtime every night. And as I read them, I was awed by Guruji, his ways, and how he blessed the people who came to him. And I thought how blessed those people were to get so much of his love. I thought of Guruji as a very special person, and within a week, he came to me in my dream. And at the time, I didn't know that was his way, but he came to my dream in a restaurant, and I'm sitting across from him in a booth. There are 2 spray bottles on the table, and he asks, and I see him, and I said, "Oh, you're Guruji." And he said, "Yes, but I'm not going to be here for long." He points to the 2 spray bottles and asks me what's the difference between the 2. And I reflect back, what is the difference between the 2? And he says, one is toxic and the other is not. And that was the end of the dream. A few days later, or maybe the same day, I woke up with a toothache and thinking I need to go to the dentist. During the day, I thought, well, I've been taking this medication, maybe it's a side effect of that. So when I tried to look it up, I realized that the pamphlets that I had from the pharmacy, I had already thrown them away. So I looked up online, and guess what? One of the medicines that was given to me was indeed toxic. It was banned by FDA. And when I contacted the doctor and the pharmacy, they told me that something had gone wrong between the 2. And of course, I didn't pursue, but that's when Guruji, showed me his presence and inculcated that faith in me. And over time, he strengthened that faith through multiple incidents. It's important to mention over here that at that time, I had been going through a very difficult phase of my life. It had been about 7 years at the time that I was separated/divorced, but I was having a really hard time moving on in my life. I was lost. I was just living from one day to the next in complete darkness, and I drive about 40 miles one way to work, and I would just cry. I would just get in the car and cry. And I just didn't know what to do, and I wondered what had happened to me. And I desperately wanted an answer. And sometimes you seek those answers and they don't come. And you realize later on that the answers don't matter. But Guruji gives you and shows you the way. And as I mentioned, the Light of Divinity book that I was reading those satsangs, and they gave me a lot of peace. And I was reading one of the satsangs where one of the devotees took one of his friends, and Guruji says कि इसका कल्याण कैसे करूं, इसके पुराने कर्मों का कैसे हिसाब होगा. So that's when something dawned on me. You know, you hear about this from your elders and those around you, that everything is a result of your karma, but you don't really believe it. And then when I read that, I think I feverishly prayed to Guruji, saying that if it is my karma, I don't know. If I did something wrong in the past, I don't remember. How do I correct this? You help me out. And I think I really, really prayed hard to him on that. Now, all of this is basically a reflection. At the time, I didn't really know. But soon after, or really during that time, I found myself listening to Gurbani Shabad. I come from a family that believes in Sikhism, so listening to Gurbani Shabad is a norm and has been a way of life. But when I started hearing him at this time, they had a lot of meaning. They brought a sense of peace. And of course, I thought that I was listening to the Shabads. I was doing all this. But really, you realize that it is Say Simare Jin Aap Simarai. So he was the one who was making me listen to the Shabad. And those of you who know, and of course a lot of us know now, that that is his way. When people went to him, he had the Gurbani Shabad on, but that's exactly what he was doing for me. And right after that, he brought a Shabad to me, which I had never heard of before, which I would have probably never gone and heard of on my own. It was the Shalok Mahalla Nama. And if you look on YouTube by Harjinder Singh, it's about 45 minutes. When I started listening to that, I don't think I had the stamina or the capacity to sit down for 45 minutes and be engrossed into a Shabad. But with his grace, every word was speaking to me. And by the time it was done, I felt relieved. I felt like a burden had been lifted off my heart. And I wanted to listen to it over and over again. I would tell my family that, you just be quiet. I need to listen to this. And when I would bring it up to my family members, they would say, okay, if you want to do Shabad or if you want to listen to art, you do Japji Sahib. And when I said, Shlok Mahalla's Noah, it's so beautiful. And they told me, well, that's what you do when somebody dies. So I was like, I didn't want to talk about it anymore. But I continued to listen to it because it spoke to me like, anything else. So it is his way. And how I found out is 18 months later, I was looking at a satsang that is posted, and it said that when Guruji was in his physical form, he used to tell the Sangha to listen to Shlok Mahalla Noah to get relief from their past karmas. I was shocked, but again, Guruji blessed me and he strengthened the faith in me. So going back to, he says, say Simare Jin Aap Simarai, there's the thing from Sukhmani Sahib, and I don't claim to have read it, but one time I had a dream that I was in a car, I was driving and it's dark, and I cannot see, but I'm really scared, so I think of him, and I get to my destination. And in Sukhmani Sahib, when I tried to read it, I haven't read all of it, but in the first few pages, there is this thing that says, Jis pende hai kor andera, har ka naam hai sangujiara. These are probably not the right words, but what it says is on the path where there is ultimate darkness, my name is your strength. And that is what he had showed to me in his dream and made me realize that what Gurbani and what Guru Granth Sahib talks about as Paramatma is really, really him. So he is the ultimate, he's my anchor, and he again strengthened my faith and continued on the journey. I'll share one more satsang. This was last summer. It was about the first week of July, and we're in Texas, so it gets really hot. I know it's hot over here too. But this was about 8 p.m. I'd been walking for about an hour in the trails as I was coming back. I wear glasses today, I'm wearing contacts. I walked past and I thought I saw a snake, but I thought, no, that's a log of wood. I went back, it looked like a log of wood. I stepped one more step closer to it. I saw the snake with the log of wood with the two ends up there. I couldn't really tell because I was sweating and my prescription had changed and it was getting a little dark. So I stooped over and I was staring at the head of a snake. And I remembered that in the book, Surcharged with Divine Love by Sukhmani Bor, she has written that Guruji said that if you see a snake, you think of him and the snake will go away. And I'm a very timid person. I would be scared, I would run away, but at the time I didn't. I just stood there, I didn't even move. I just thought of Guruji, and the snake was still there. And then I had the thought, Guruji, if he's not alive, I don't know what to do. Could you please take care of him? And the moment that thought crossed my mind, the snake very slowly, quietly went into the trails. Now, like I said, I'm a very timid person. I would have run away. I wasn't shrieking. I wasn't screaming. It was his presence. Again, he had made me feel his presence and made me feel blessed again and made me realize that whatever has been said about him, although I had not seen him in his physical form, I've not been to the Mandir. If I read the satsangs, whatever has been said about him or whatever he has said is really ultimately the truth. Also, a lot of what we hear from the Sangha, he also blesses. Earlier this year, I was at a satsang, and one of the aunties mentioned that, she sees Oms and she was showing it to me, and I couldn't see it. So, but she said, this is Anu auntie from Austin. Jai Guruji, I'll continue. So at the Satsang, Anu auntie from Satsang from Austin, she mentioned that जब Guruji Om दिखाते हैं तो कितने ही Om दिखा देते हैं. So that was a statement that I heard, and a few days later I was thinking, I don't see any Oms. And soon enough, as I came from my walk on my chapati, I saw Om. I felt so blessed, I felt so happy. I was going to work, I saw an Om in the sky, I again felt very blessed. I wanted to go to the temple and say thank you to Guruji. I had a lunch with colleagues, but I went there first. Sure enough, there was Om in the sky again. I went, had the lunch with my colleagues on my way back to work, and I'm thinking, oh, no Oms. And as I'm driving, I looked to my left through the window, and there was Om again. So again, Guruji Sangat said that जब Guruji Om दिखाते हैं तो कितने ही Om दिखाते हैं, then he actually makes us experience that. And a lot of my blessings, a lot of the way Guruji has blessed me is through satsangs. And what has been said multiple times in the satsangs that I've heard, that when you hear the satsang, he blesses you. He really does. I felt it, and I know a lot of you have as well. Going back to, I think I got derailed a little bit, was talking about how I was really lost, and he really kind of held my hand, and I have the sense of peace that I didn't have before. Like I couldn't explain to anybody how I felt at the time. I cannot explain the sense of peace and calm that reigns me now. And to draw the contrast, that it's unimaginable. It's the kind of peace that I could not have imagined. It's the kind of peace that I couldn't have asked for. I wouldn't have known to ask for it, but he has blessed me with that. So I feel very, very fortunate that he has chosen me. He's granted me the feeling of his love, the feeling of his presence, and he's my anchor. I don't feel lost. And the kind of peace that he's given to me, I pray that he grants it to everybody. So he gives us in many ways we're not able to acknowledge. So tu samrat vadam, meri mat thodi ram. So he gives us in many ways. We're only able to acknowledge the ones that we can sense and we feel. Guruji, please keep granting us those blessings so we can acknowledge and feel blessed over and again. Jai Guruji.